4.1 magnitude earthquake in Tennessee woke up families and rattled homes this morning, and it was centered not far from Greenback. And it was felt as far away as Charlotte and Atlanta.
Far beneath the quiet hills of Appalachia, a hidden danger is slowly building. People living in Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia, and nearby states don't think of earthquakes as a serious risk. Most worry about tornadoes or floods. But scientists say one of the most dangerous earthquake zones in the United States is right under their feet. It is called the East Tennessee Seismic Zone, and experts warn it may be even more dangerous than the new Madrid Fault that once shook half the country. This fault system doesn't look dramatic on the surface. There are no giant cracks in the ground or cliffs sliding past each other. Instead, the faults are buried deep underground, formed hundreds of millions of years ago when ancient continents crashed together. For centuries, they have stayed silent, but the Earth is still under pressure. That pressure builds slowly, year after year, until one day it suddenly releases. Scientists believe this quiet zone could unleash an earthquake as strong as 7.5 in magnitude. That's enough to destroy cities, damage dams, and send shaking across multiple states. Small earthquakes already happen here all the time. In fact, thousands have been recorded in the last 20 years. Most are so small that people never feel them. But they are like tiny warning signs, proof that the ground is alive and moving. The last really big quake here was long ago, long enough that the ground may already be loaded with energy for the next one. The East Tennessee Seismic Zone stretches nearly 300 miles from Alabama, through Tennessee, and into Virginia. Its influence even reaches into Georgia and Kentucky. Unlike faults out west, this zone sits in the middle of the continent, not at the edge where plates collide. That makes it more unusual and more dangerous. Because the rock in the eastern U.S. is so old and solid, earthquakes travel much farther here than they do in California. A quake in Tennessee could be felt hundreds of miles away, shaking homes in places like Atlanta, Louisville, or even farther north. In modern times, the strongest quake here was a 4.7 near Alcoa, Tennessee, in 1973. It was followed by more than 30 aftershocks. Another one, in 2003 near Fort Payne, Alabama, reached 4.6 and caused sinkholes, broken water pipes, and chimney collapses. More recently, in May 2025, a 4.1 quake struck near Greenback, Tennessee. It was felt across multiple states, and more than 45,000 people reported it online. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and no buildings collapsed. But it was a reminder of the power lying beneath the surface. And long before modern history, evidence shows at least 2 prehistoric earthquakes here were much larger, reaching around magnitude 6.5. Those quakes were strong enough to rip the ground open and cause massive damage if they happened today. Scientists now believe the East Tennessee Zone can produce earthquakes up to 7.5. Even a 6.5 would be devastating. Shaking would hit not just Tennessee, but also Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Georgia. Millions of people would feel it. And the scariest part is that many buildings in this part of the country were never designed for earthquakes. Think about the risks. Tennessee and nearby states are full of old brick buildings, schools, bridges, and homes that have no earthquake reinforcements. Power lines and water systems would likely fail. Roads could crack and bridges could fall. Hospitals might lose power and communication. Dams in the Tennessee Valley could be damaged, leading to flooding on top of the shaking. In the mountains, landslides could block highways and bury homes. Emergency responders would struggle to move through the chaos. If a major earthquake hit, the damage could cost tens of billions of dollars. Thousands of people could be killed or injured. Cities might be left without power, clean water, or working hospitals for weeks. It would be one of the worst disasters in U.S. history. The sad truth is that most people in this region are not ready. In California, children grow up practicing earthquake drills. Buildings are built with special reinforcements. Here in the Southeast, people rarely think about earthquakes at all. Schools and hospitals were built without earthquake safety in mind. Families don't know what to do if the ground starts shaking. This lack of preparation makes the threat even more dangerous. Some efforts are being made. The University of Memphis runs the Center for Earthquake Research and Information, which tracks quakes in this zone. Tennessee and other states are part of the Central U.S. Earthquake Consortium, which studies the risks and runs public drills like the annual shakeout. Emergency managers encourage people to secure heavy furniture, practice drop, cover, and hold on, and keep emergency kits at home. Scientists are also using new tools to detect smaller quakes and build better models of how stress builds in the crust. But these steps are small compared to what needs to be done. The biggest challenge is convincing people and governments to act before disaster strikes. Retrofitting bridges, schools, and hospitals costs money. Updating building codes can be unpopular. But if nothing is done, the losses in a major earthquake will be far worse. Scientists stress that the question is not whether this zone will produce a large earthquake again. It is simply a matter of time. The East Tennessee Seismic Zone is silent most of the time, but that silence is what makes it so dangerous. Unlike faults that constantly release energy in small quakes, this one can hold back pressure for centuries, only to unleash it suddenly in a single, massive rupture. The 2025 Greenback quake was just a whisper. The prehistoric quakes of the past prove that much stronger events are possible. The new Madrid Fault further west is more famous, largely because of the historic 1811 and 1812 earthquakes that were so powerful they made the Mississippi River flow backwards. But today, scientists say New Madrid is quieter. East Tennessee, on the other hand, is active with constant microquakes. If it ruptures, it would strike a region with far more people and infrastructure than New Madrid did 200 years ago. That's why some experts now say East Tennessee may be the bigger danger. Imagine the headlines the day after such a quake. Cities across Tennessee shaken, bridges closed, hospitals overwhelmed, millions without power, landslides cutting off mountain towns, dams at risk of failure, and all of it happening in a place where most people never thought earthquakes were a real threat. The lesson is simple. Preparation is not panic. It is protection. People can take small steps now. Securing heavy furniture, planning evacuation routes, keeping supplies ready, and pushing for stronger building codes. Governments can invest in retrofitting old buildings, improving bridges, and training first responders. None of this will stop the earth from moving, but it can save lives when it does. The East Tennessee Seismic Zone is more than just a scientific idea. It is a hidden giant beneath Appalachia, storing stress quietly for centuries until the day it breaks. Whether that day comes tomorrow or in 100 years, the evidence is clear. It will happen again. And when it does, the story will not be about California or Missouri. It will be about Tennessee and the megaquake no one saw coming. When people think about earthquakes in America, their minds almost always jump to California. That's where Hollywood shows collapsing highways and where children grow up doing drop cover and hold on drills. But if a powerful quake were to hit Tennessee, the surprise factor could make it even more deadly than anything on the West Coast. The shock wouldn't only come from the ground moving. It would come from the lack of preparation. Imagine it happening in the middle of an ordinary morning. In Nashville, commuters fill the highways. In Knoxville, classrooms are buzzing with activity. In Chattanooga, factories are running at full speed. Suddenly, the ground jerks violently. At first, people freeze, confused, because earthquakes are not something they expect here. Then the shaking intensifies. Bricks fall from buildings, bridges sway and crack, and shelves crash down in grocery stores. Power lines snap, plunging neighborhoods into darkness. In the mountains, rocks tumble onto highways, trapping cars and cutting off entire towns. The shaking doesn't stop after a few seconds. It keeps rolling for a full minute, long enough to turn confusion into terror. Hospitals struggle as ceilings crack and equipment falls. Emergency phone lines are jammed within minutes. Parents fight traffic to reach their children's schools, only to find roads blocked or bridges impassable. In rural towns, older homes crumble, leaving families without shelter. And while firefighters and police rush to help, they too are victims of the chaos, with their own stations damaged and vehicles trapped by debris. This is not just a Tennessee problem. Because of the way seismic energy travels in the east, cities hundreds of miles away would feel it too. Atlanta, Charlotte, Louisville, and even Cincinnati could all experience strong shaking. Skyscrapers in distant cities might sway, and fragile infrastructure far from the epicenter could still suffer cracks and failures. Millions of people across multiple states would be affected at the same time, stretching emergency resources thin. The economic cost would also be staggering. Businesses shut down, factories damaged, highways destroyed, and power outages dragging on for weeks. Insurance companies would face claims larger than anything they had ever prepared for. Families who never thought of earthquakes as a real threat could find their homes destroyed and their savings gone overnight. Scientists warn that this perfect storm of surprise, vulnerability, and wide-reaching impact is why the East Tennessee Seismic Zone deserves more attention than it gets. Unlike California, which has invested billions into earthquake safety, this region has done little to prepare. Each year that passes without action only increases the risk that the next big quake will catch millions completely unready. The Earth has a way of reminding humans who is in charge. The silence of the East Tennessee Seismic Zone does not mean safety. It means waiting, and the longer the wait, the more violent the release is likely to be. When it finally happens, history may look back and say, this was the earthquake America should have seen coming, but chose to ignore.